Good morning. Welcome to the Weather Desk. It's Monday, September 15th. I hope your weekend was a good one. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. We broadcast from the 13 News Now studios in Southeast Virginia, serving all of Hampton Roads and Northeast North Carolina. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. Let's get into our Weather Desk headlines. From the Weather Desk, we have a weather impact alert. That's for Hampton Roads and for Northeast North Carolina. We're going to break down all of the threats associated with this impact alert and the timing, so you'll know exactly what's going on with that. We also have some other issues to talk about nationwide. We have flooding in Florida, tornadoes in Utah, and then if you can stay tuned and if you love space and space exploration, you love NASA's launches, we've got a really cool look at a launch that went off. Their latest launch, kind of taking a minute to take a look at some of the elements that come together, how it lifts off, its launch, and everything involved with it is super, super cool. Stay tuned. And amazing new picks from the James Webb Telescope. You'll definitely want to stick around if you can for those. But we need to start off with the weather impact alert for Hampton Roads. And basically, we've got an area of low pressure. It's a coastal low. It is getting stronger as it moves closer to Hampton Roads, and it is stirring things up. So I declared a weather impact alert. Now, we have certain criteria for impact alerts, and one of those is a wind advisory, which technically we're meeting. In general, we've seen bigger threats of severe weather. We've seen stronger winds. We've seen greater amounts of tidal flooding. But to see everything coming together all together at once for later tonight into tomorrow, the ingredients are all there. It said, let's go ahead and call the impact alert. This is for late today, Monday, late afternoon and evening through Tuesday. We've got the tidal flooding, should be minor, could be moderate. We're going to definitely see wet conditions, and it's going to be windy. And my concern is, even if the tidal flooding is, say, minor, you get the waters in our areas, talking about places along the Elizabeth River, the James River, the York. You get back up into the middle part of the Chesapeake Bay and the lower bay, even around Lynn Haven. Some of these areas start to back up. The water levels come up. Then you throw in a few inches of rain on top of it. That could really create some more flooding troubles. Areas that don't typically see water could have roadways covered, and that's the big concern. You want to stay weather aware. Let's look at that area of low pressure spinning right here as we put the winds on. You can see very clearly there's our coastal low. It's actually drifting to the north. It's going to get a little closer. We have high pressure off to the north, and that difference between the low pressure to our south, high pressure to the north, as that gets closer, the difference is greater over a shorter distance. That pressure gradient will get stronger, and the winds are going to increase. We've already been seeing winds at Duck Pier gusting up around 37, 38 miles per hour. In Virginia Beach, we've seen gusts around 30 miles per hour or so. As we go over the next 48 hours, and really the next 24, I think overnight tonight and into tomorrow, we're going to see more and more gusts close to 40, some areas maybe 40 to even 45 down along the Outer Banks. So there's the area of low pressure. We've got the onshore flow. And I've been working here in Hampton Roads, serving this part of the country. I started back in 1997. I've seen this type of a flow, and when we get it, the water gets pushed into the lower part of the Chesapeake Bay. That raises our tide levels with that onshore flow, and that's why we're concerned for that minor tidal flooding, maybe minor to moderate late tomorrow. Right now, the rain's fairly light, and again, with water levels not too terribly high right now, what falls out there really not that big of a deal early this morning. There are showers down around the Albemarle Sound, but later today, when we get into the futurecast, you're going to see how the heavier rain comes in, and it's going to be a prolonged period of heavier rain, which will lead to runoff. And with the tides running high, that's where we're going to kind of get it, the 1-2 punch coming in at us. So I wanted to start off by showing you we are still abnormally dry around Hampton Roads. We are about 7 inches, 7.37 inches to be exact. below average for the year. We actually need some rain. The rain that we get tomorrow is going to come down. It's going to be very heavy, but that's going to make a dent in that rainfall deficit. So far, most of the rain that's been steadier has been down to the south. We have seen a few showers showing up around the eastern shore, Cape Charles up towards Eastville. We've seen a little bit around Bird's Nest, and you can see the southern tip of the eastern shore dealing with a little bit. We've got a few showers around Rudy Inlet, maybe down towards Croatan. You've got a few sprinkles there. Up around Fort Story, we've got a little bit of very light rain, some spotty precip here in Norfolk and back towards Portsmouth. Also a little bit down to the south into northeast North Carolina. There in Camden and Currituck counties, you see Camden, Currituck here. We've got some light showers, and that extends back down through Nixonton, around Elizabeth City, and then the Outer Banks has been seeing showers pretty much all morning, off and on. Rodanthe, Salvo, Avon, Buxton, areas down around Hatteras, seeing the rain with lightning, some thunderstorms down there over the Pamlico Sound. So this is all in association with that area of low pressure, which is offshore. We're going to watch for this to overtake the area. Now, we also have the coastal flood advisory. That's for the northern neck, the middle peninsula, York County up on the peninsula, then for Poquoson, for Hampton, Newport News up through James City County, we have a coastal flood watch. That watch extends down through Surrey, back across Isle of Wight, Suffolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and Portsmouth. And I suspect as we go later today, there's a good chance this will be flipped to a coastal flood warning, especially if those winds tomorrow are a little bit stronger. Right now, we're looking at minor tidal flooding with the high tide coming around 5 o'clock this afternoon. At 5 a.m., another round of minor tidal flooding expected. And then as we get into the Tuesday evening high tide, the second high tide of the day, this is where it gets a little more interesting. Keep in mind, we're going to be dealing with a lot of rain throughout the day. So the rain's going to be coming down and backing up areas that would typically drain into the water. Talking about the bay, the sounds, the ocean, all that stuff where we typically get it running off into the rivers. Now we're looking at the tide levels coming up. That water that falls may have a hard time running off. That minor tidal flooding expected at 5.4 feet, that could become a little bit higher. Once we get to 5.5 feet, it goes from minor to moderate. And once we get to moderate tidal flooding, that's when parts of Norfolk, some of the roads, become covered with water, can even be impassable, and you've got to reroute traffic. So this is going to lend itself to some potential headaches on the roads, and we're going to talk to our traffic expert here in just a moment. Wanted to quickly show you some of the winds. We do have the wind advisory for Portsmouth, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and down along the Outer Banks. Those winds are going to be picking up. So the combination rain, wind, and higher tides, it will be impacting the traffic. We'll see, I think, some impacts even with the evening commute, but tomorrow morning it's going to be a mess. I want to talk to my partner in crime, Marta Berglund. You've been watching these roads. You're anticipating some headaches tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we saw light rain last week and it was a traffic mess, Craig. So with the wind, with the rain, all of that compiled together, could see some flooding as well, as he mentioned. We could be in for a traffic situation tomorrow where you certainly want to leave a few minutes early. So this graphic basically compounds all the things that Craig was talking about and forecasts which delays you may see and when. So tonight is when we could start to see those delays take hold around Hampton Roads, but then especially in northeastern North Carolina. As we fast forward to tomorrow's morning commute, you see we expect moderate delays to major delays in most of our area. What that means, once again, you're going to want to leave early. Maybe if you have the option to work from home, you could do that as well. But we do expect that tidal flooding, wind, rain, all to create that issue. And then midday Tuesday, we're looking at those major delays all over Hampton Roads. So something to keep in mind as we take a look at that hand in hand with the forecast. As we take a look at your map right now, of course, we expect those areas that typically see that flooding to have that tomorrow. Principally that comes to mind is the Hague. So if you typically find yourself in the Ghent area, the Hague area of Norfolk, just think ahead now. You're not going to want to drive through floodwaters tomorrow morning, so may as well find a different route as you head out the door. The rain is a concern, but so is the wind. We saw that last week when we had plenty of crashes on Wednesday and Thursday. It really wasn't raining that much, but the roads were slick, and with that wind, we really did see a lot of incidents. So keep that in mind. And do want to touch on this for northeastern North Carolina. This is the latest look at NC-12 at the Canal Zone, where we are seeing a little bit of debris on the road and maybe a little bit of overwash as well. So as we prepare for tomorrow, if you are down on the Outer Banks, you could see this situation worsen. And of course, we'll keep an eye on NC-12 and any closures that do come up as a result. But the bottom line is the rain is dangerous. The wind is dangerous, especially as you hit the roads. Of course, be aware of that tidal flooding in your low-lying areas. If you're used to seeing that flooding, still doesn't mean you should drive through it. I'll be keeping an eye on the roads tomorrow morning. But Craig, for now, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Marta. We may see some wind restrictions as well with the wind advisories along the coast. So that's something that Marta will be letting us know about throughout daybreak tomorrow morning. Make sure you join us if you're here in Hampton Roads, or even if you have interest in our area and you're outside the area. You can find us online, 13newsnow.com, and on our 13 Plus. We stream live, of course, as well. So all of this going on with that area of low pressure. We are going to turn our attention to a couple other parts of the country as well. You can see Florida here. They were dealing, parts of South Florida experienced flooding on Friday after days of rain. Several lakes in the area could have contributed to the flood event, those lakes backing up and filling up as the rain came in. And as the day went on, the waters finally started to recede. At least one car stalled out in the deep flood waters of the city of Hollywood, just south of Fort Lauderdale, but there were no reports of flooded homes in the area. That is good news. But certainly you get that heavy rain there, those retention ponds in some of those different areas fill up, and it does lead to problems. Again, fortunately, no injuries or any real big problems there with human life. Now, as we take a look back across Utah over the weekend, there were tornadoes that destroyed several homes in southeastern Utah. Now, again, fortunately, no one was seriously injured, no injuries reported. But look at these images from the Navajo Police Department. A storm produced 2 tornadoes in San Juan County in southeastern Utah over the span of an hour. These images just stunning as you take a look. And look at the debris at the bottom kind of kicking up that sand and dust. It started around 12:35 on Saturday. The National Weather Service says the paths of the tornadoes that touched down near Montezuma Creek likely covered less than 10 miles. 3 homes in the area were demolished in the storm, and an unknown number of livestock and pets were reported missing following those tornadoes. But they are amazing to look at. And really, Utah, having worked out in Utah for 3 years, I was in Salt Lake for a while out there early in my career. We would cover the entire state of Utah. You know, obviously they can have tornadoes, but they don't typically see a lot. So those images, again, coming from southeastern southeastern Utah, absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous country, and those storms, amazing to look at that. All right, as we take a look nationally, we're going to talk about the severe weather outlook. And really, there's not much going on today. You can see parts of Wyoming, central and northeastern Wyoming, level 1 threat into western parts of South Dakota and northern Minnesota as well. Primary threat here is going to be gusty winds and maybe some hail up in Minnesota. The tornadic threat is very low. Across central Nebraska tomorrow, this is your Tuesday severe weather outlook. Again, a level 1 threat that extends down into northwest Kansas and northeastern Colorado. So some unsettled weather back here in this part of the country. Again, the East Coast and the West Coast, not expecting anything bad. There could be some gusty winds there. And again, maybe some larger hail right there across Nebraska. All right, let's turn our attention to the tropics. Couple things we want to talk about. Here we are, September 15th. We passed the peak of the hurricane season last Wednesday. Now We are coming down the backside. Of course, this is still a historically very active period and will be for the next few weeks. So we are certainly going to keep a close eye to everything. Odds are ticking a little bit higher for Atlantic development with our next system, potentially Gabrielle. We'll show you that here in a moment. And we still have Mario in the Eastern Pacific. It was a tropical storm. It had weakened. It is a tropical storm once again. So let's take a look here across the Gulf. Everything is quiet right now. Nothing developing in the immediate future here, nothing anticipated. Back across most of the Caribbean, things are looking good. We do have a little bit of convection here, but it's straddling the coast. And again, you typically find these types of storms popping up. Hurricane Center's not too concerned with that. What we are watching, though, this area here, this wave that is moving along, and there is now an 80% chance of development as this moves off to the west-northwest. Here is Bermuda. I was looking at the global forecast system, some of our longer range, and they're technically what we call medium range, but you get out past 7-10 days, you say a little bit longer range modeling, takes this and then turns it more to the north, hopefully before making it to Bermuda. Here is the east coast of the United States, Norfolk, the Outer Banks here. So this thing should turn maybe 700 miles or so east of ever making it to the coast. Things can change. It's far, far away. But right now, I'm not overly concerned about this reaching the United States. It should turn to the north before making Bermuda. Now, this area will need to be watched the 24th through the 30th. This is a little bit longer range outlook. Low risk of development there. Also a low risk in the Western Caribbean and the Southern Gulf. A little bit more development possibly off the southern part of the coast of Mexico there in the Eastern Pacific. So those are the areas that we're watching. As we take a look at the conditions out there, again, that next name, Gabrielle on the list. After that, Humberto. So we'll see if we get any more development. It looks like a pretty good chance, though, we could see Gabrielle before too long. All right, here is Mario in the Eastern Pacific. So we're going to be watching this guy here right now. A little more convection. There could be some additional development, but this is the only game in town right now. It is a tropical storm with winds of 60 miles per hour. May get a little bit stronger, but you see the path keeps it offshore well to the west of the Baja Peninsula. So that's how things are looking in the tropics. Turning our attention to the skies. We're going to take a short break. When we come back after 2 minutes, we're going to have a look at NASA's latest launch. Really cool stuff to show you with that, and new Webb pics as well from the James Webb Telescope. You'll want to stick around. That's coming up after this break. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. So glad you're with us here. If you're watching on 13 News Now Plus, or maybe you're watching on YouTube, we're delighted to have you with us. Just hours ago, NASA's Northrop Grumman uncrewed Cygnus XL spacecraft launched. The mission was a delivery of cargo, science, and supplies to the International Space Station. Let's watch a snippet of that live stream from yesterday with the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida.
Everything looking good ahead of liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Cygnus.
And liftoff. Falcon 9 and Cygnus take flight.
M1D chamber pressure nominal.
The SS Willie McCool is en route to the International Space Station. Vehicle pitching downrange as all 9 Merlin engines have lit.
We are currently throttling down to prepare for max Q, which is the point in the mission profile where the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of aerodynamic pressure that it'll see on ascent. Max Q is reached when the air density of the atmosphere decreases faster than the increasing speed of the rocket. So look out for that call out, which we're expecting to hear shortly.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. Max Q.
And there's that call out for Max Q. Now, coming up next are several events that are going to happen in rapid succession. First is main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 1 flip, second engine start, boost backburn start, and then fairing separation. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all 9 M1D engines
Stage 2 engine chill.
on the Falcon 9 first stage are shut down. This is followed by separation of the first and second stages. Stage 1 flip is when the booster uses its nitrogen gas thrusters to flip the booster around. And a few seconds later, the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite to boost Cygnus to low Earth orbit, and that is also called out as Second Engine Start 1, or SES-1. After that, Falcon 9's first stage will ignite again to orient itself to head back to land. And shortly thereafter, the 2 fairing halves will separate and expose the spacecraft to the vacuum of space.
You know, all of our missions are critical, but this particular mission is even more so critical. You know, NG-22 was scheduled to be launched in June, and we had an issue with that spacecraft during a shipping incident, and so we weren't able to get that mission launched. And so the NG team has done a phenomenal job accelerating this mission 4 months to be able to get this launch off today. This is a different variant, as you guys have highlighted. It's the Cygnus XL, is what they call that. It has 33% more capacity to launch cargo, and it's extremely important. There's a lot of critical consumables, supplies, food, water, air that we need for station to maintain habitability of crew. And then also we've got critical science that we also have on this mission. And so, you know, we consider this really important to be able to enhance and expand our capability to launch more cargo.
So cool to check that out. And I want to give a special thanks to one of our producers, Naya Campbell. She went through that entire feed of NASA and cut that down to show you some of the highlights from that mission, from launch to the recovery of the boosters. I mean, it's amazing what they are doing. So hats off to NASA and congratulations on a successful launch. And again, just wonderful work they do with their missions. All right, we're now going to check out something else from the world of space. This Webb telescope, new imagery coming in, and we're loving it. The Webb telescope captured spectacular fireworks of a sort happening on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy. Scientists at NASA described the eruption of gases as, quote, a volcanically growing monster star. How cool is that? Some have compared it to the light show. Well, they compared this light show to that double-bladed lightsaber from Star Wars. Pretty cool with the two red kind of lightsaber edges coming out of it. Very, very cool. NASA scientists say there could be other massive stars like this one out in the universe. Absolutely love to share these images with you, and we always keep our eyes out for more of that. Right now, we're going to take a look at what's happening across our area. Zoom in a little closer at this wet weather that is impacting Hampton Roads, and we are going to see it. We can take this full because I want to take a look at our live radar, and we'll do that right now for you and zoom in, show you some of the areas up on the eastern shore. You get to the north end of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, Kiptopeke up through Townsend, Cape Charles, these areas all seeing some light showers right now. Across Virginia Beach, a little bit of a break right now. Once you get down into North Carolina, you pick up some more wet weather around the Albemarle Sound. We've been mentioning the Outer Banks, Kill Devil Hills, Nags Head, Manteo, all of these areas seeing that rain. It's been light to moderate, a little heavier down around Buxton and Cape Hatteras, down around Ocracoke. You may be hearing a few rumbles of thunder. You've got some of that lightning detected over the Albemarle Sound, and then as well, just to the south of Buxton. So that's what's out there right now. More lightning strikes offshore. This is all associated with the coastal low. As we pick up our futurecast, what you're going to find across the area, and I'll head back over the maps to talk a little bit more about this. We have the potential for additional scattered showers coming into play. I do expect more. But once we get into the day tomorrow with those steady northeast winds blowing, that's bringing up the water levels, heavy rain across the region, and that rain is going to be at times steady. This sets up the potential for the excessive rainfall and the potential for flooding. So we need to watch for all of that. That low pressure eventually tracks off to the north. Things are going to improve in a big way as we look forward to the upcoming weekend. We just have to hang in there. Take a look at the various models and the rainfall projections, and this is where it gets a little tricky. I was saying in general, 2 to 3 inches of rain. That's kind of the expectation for many parts of the area. You see that with the European. The Canadian model goes higher with 4.28 inches. The U.S. model less than about 1.5 inches or so, and about 2.6 inches with the NAM. Now the graph model, this is the outlier, but we lean into the graph quite a bit with a lot of our high-res, kind of shorter range modeling, and the graph has done a good job. I don't think this one, being such an outlier is probably going to work out, but I'm not going to totally discredit it either. We'll need to see how things work out. Again, 2 to 3 inches is more likely, but some areas, if we get super heavy rain training one area after another, there could be some areas in excess of 4 inches of rain, certainly a possibility across the region. And we'll let you know if the other models start trending up towards the graph. You'll hear about it right here from 13 News Now. All right, out on the Chesapeake Bay and the ocean waters, we'll see gale warnings going up. Again, the winds picking up. Could see gusts at 35 knots on the bay, 40-knot gusts out on the ocean. Highs today are going to reach the mid-70s for the most part. Periods of rain expected, some scattered showers across the region. Up on the eastern shore, low to mid-70s there, mid-70s for the peninsula and the middle peninsula. The farther north and west you go, the less likely rain chances. Down across North Carolina, look for the rain and maybe a few rumbles of thunder around Manteo. Highs at the Outer Banks in the lower 70s. Tonight's low down around 66, wet and windy. Again, we do anticipate minor tidal flooding with the high tide coming around 5 o'clock this evening for Sewell's Point. As we go into the day tomorrow, 73 tidal flooding expected, and we could see minor to maybe even moderate tidal flooding with the later high tide tomorrow getting into the evening. So we're watching that, those winds gusting up close to 40 miles per hour. There's the rest of the 7-day forecast. After the wet weather moves out, we have a gorgeous weekend in store. I want to encourage you, if you don't have the 13 News Now mobile app, download it. It is available. It is free, and you will have access to all of our radars and our forecast updates, any special updates as needed. Have a great day. We'll see you next time from the Weather Desk.